Hello again, Simon Winter is my name. I'm from Raine and Horne Business Sales. Today I want to talk to you about what happens when you want to assign a lease, either because a business is sold or for any other reason. The issue of assigning a lease is covered under the Retail and Commercial Shop Leases Act of South Australia, which goes back to 1995. Can the landlord reject an application to assign a lease? Under section 43 of the Act, he can, but he can only do that if the purchaser wants to change the use or the purchaser of the business cannot meet the landlord's financial obligations, if the purchaser's skills are inferior to the current tenant, or the documentation is not complete. If the tenant wants to assign the lease, is the tenant going to still be liable after that assignment? Under section 45 of the Act, the answer is yes. The tenant will be liable for up to 2 years after assignment, or when the lease expires or is renewed or is extended. Whichever of those comes first, after that point, the tenant's obligation will expire and will have been met. And there will be no longer an obligation to the tenant. At the end of the lease, will the landlord give a new lease? Under section 20D of the Act, the landlord is obligated to provide a new lease unless the landlord wants to change the tenancy mix, unless the tenant is in breach of the lease. If the landlord wants to demolish or renovate, he doesn't have to provide a new lease. And the final one, if the landlord wants to have the property back for his own use, he can do so, but he then cannot re-let it for another 6 months. So the landlord at the end of a lease is obligated to provide a new lease unless there is one of those exemptions. If the lease is being assigned, can the landlord change the lease terms? And the answer is no, he cannot. This is a transfer from a vendor to a purchaser. The landlord has no involvement in that transaction other than approving it or rejecting it. He has no capacity to change the document. Can the landlord prevent a tenant from subletting? Under section 19, yes, he can. Subletting is at the absolute discretion of the landlord. Can the landlord charge a security bond if one does not already exist? Under section 19, he can, but it is limited to 4 weeks. One of the problems in this area is that landlords are now starting to charge bank guarantees of up to 6 months. It's a grey area and bank guarantees are not covered under the Act. Can a landlord put a clause in the lease that is in conflict with the Act? Under section 5, the answer is no. If there's any conflict between what's in the lease and what is in the Act will apply. I hope that's helpful, and if you have any questions on that, please, I welcome any inquiries, any phone calls or any emails. Thank you.